with that. And I say, you know what, Father, Jesus said, call no man on other than Father, but let's say, Father, you're right. I need to come back to Catholicism. You're right. I'm not learning everything I should there at that Baptist church. And so I go back to the Catholic Church. And so after a few weeks, my new pastor, Kevin Folger from Cleveland Baptist, he comes knocking on the door. And I invite him in. And he says, where have you been? I mean, you've been saved 3 or 4 months now. You've been baptized. You joined the church. You're doing great. And now all of a sudden you've quit attending. Where have you been? And I tell him, well, that my Catholic priest came by and told me that I'm not getting the full picture, the full story there at Cleveland Baptist. He said I have to come back to Catholicism and put myself under that again if I want to hold on and keep my salvation. Wow. And Pastor Folger looks at me and says, I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel. Right. Yeah, and that's a make-believe story, but that's pretty similar to what is going on here in the book of Galatians. You have the Apostle Paul, who during his first missionary journey, you can read about that in Acts 13 and 14. He goes about through various cities like Iconium and Lystra and Derbe and Antioch, and he preaches and establishes churches there in the Galatian region. And so these Galatian Christians, and again, notice in verse 2 it says the churches of Galatia. It's not proper to say the church at Galatia, because Galatia was not a city, it was a region. So there were several churches he was writing to. But Paul established many churches here in the Galatian region, and they were doing well. In Galatians 5:7, he said he did run well. They were running well. They were doing well. They were established in their faith and walking with the Lord. But now there's a group that we call the Judaizers. The Judaizers, these Jewish evangelists, so to speak, and they were infiltrating. They were creeping in. I'll probably use that word a lot. They were creeping in. And that's a good Bible word, by the way, Jude. Verse number 9, verse 4, talks about those that crept in unawares. Crept in unawares. I call them the creeps. These folks with the false doctrine. They were creeping into the Galatian churches, and they were telling these Galatian Christians, hey, it's great to be saved by grace, but if you want to hold on to your salvation and really be right with God, you've got to come back to Judaism. You've got to put yourself back under the bondage. You've got to be circumcised, and you've got to worship on Saturday and not on Sunday. And you've got to go through all these rites and rituals in order to keep your salvation. And so that's the theme of the book of Galatians, and Paul has to write to them to correct that. So we'll pick up our study here tonight in verse number 6, and verses 6 through 9 is what we'll cover tonight, and it's admittedly not going to take very long to go through these verses, but then after we go through the verses, I'll spend the majority of my time tonight to kind of bring this again up into modern day talk here and explain how this makes application for us today. So verse 6, again, Paul says, I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel. So Paul here says that he marvels. He's amazed. He's dumbfounded, would be a good way to put it. He can't believe it's not been that long that they've been Christians, not been that long that they've been walking with the Lord, and already they're veering off course back to Judaism. And he's, again, dumbfounded. He marvels at this. That hadn't been very long, and already they're going back to that bondage. Personally, I cannot even fathom wanting to go back to my Catholicism. I mean, there's been a few times since I've been saved, these 22 years now, where I've had to go back to the Catholic Church for a wedding or a funeral, usually a funeral, and it's honestly hard to tell the difference between a Catholic wedding and a funeral. All their services are like funeral services. They're very dull and dark and depressing and boring and such, and it's just creepy just being in their buildings.
Right.
It really is.
It is.
Not only the way it looks, but also there's this almost this odd feeling that you get there when you know the truth, and then you walk into a place like that. It's awful. And I've been in Catholic funerals where the priest stands up there and says, well, the departed was baptized as an infant, and so that is what is getting him into the eternal kingdom, and basically talking about baptismal regeneration. We know he's going to go to heaven eventually after purgatory because he was baptized as an infant. And I want to stand up on the pew and scream as loud as I can, no! That's wrong. That's not right. I want to preach there when I'm at a Catholic church. It is wicked. Roman Catholicism is going to send more people to hell than probably anything else.
Amen.
Because it is such it's got its claws into everything.
Yes, it does.
Many of the biggest politicians are Roman Catholics.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I mean, we might agree with them on their politics, but they're Roman Catholics. And
Yeah.
a lot of the people on TV, a lot of the sports stars, it's just everywhere, and they're just accepted. Oh, yeah, they're Christians. No, they're not.
Right,
Right.
preacher.
They have a false
Amen.
gospel. We'll talk
Right.
about that more in a moment. But I can't imagine wanting to go back to that. I'm free from that bondage. I don't have to pray to Mary. I don't have to light candles. I don't have to confess my sins to a priest.
Right.